Are you ready to turn your investments into retirement income? Listen in as Jeremy Keil and his guests reveal ways you can make smarter retirement, investment, and tax planning decisions to achieve your ideal retirement. You will learn more about your money so you can feel better about your money and make better money decisions. Now, on to the show.
Welcome to Retirement Revealed. I'm your host, Jeremy Keil, and we're here to turn your retirement savings into a consistent income. And speaking of income, I'm bringing on today the author of a book called It's All About the Income, The Simple System for a Big Retirement. Michael Lynch is the author. Michael, welcome to the show.
Well, it's great to be here, Jeremy. Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a few things in common. One of them is that we are part of a heavily regulated industry. So we've got to read off your firm's disclaimer first. You'll get to hear mine later on the show. So here we go. This book is meant for educational purposes only. It's not intended to be personal financial advice for the simple reason that all situations are unique and it is not written for you personally. Michael Lynch is a registered representative of and offers securities and investment advisory services through MML Investor Services, LLC, member SIPC, 6 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484, telephone 203-513-6000. Representatives do not provide tax and or legal advice. Any discussion of taxes is for general informational purposes only, does not purport to be complete or cover every situation, and should not be construed as legal, tax, or accounting advice. You should confer with qualified legal, tax, and accounting advisors as appropriate. So that's a long way, Michael, to tell people that these are ideas. It's not advice because we just don't know who you are. You don't know your personal situation, but you probably should find someone to work with that knows your situation, can apply ideas like these to better your financial decisions. And you wrote a book all about that, all these financial decisions.
Absolutely. You know, I did a radio show for 10 years and I always said, never take advice on the radio because it's not for you. You have to get it customized. Otherwise, one little thing that's an error and it just blows the whole thing for you. So yeah, you definitely get the information, apply it to yourself, and then either do the hard work yourself or hire somebody to help you do the hard work.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, but you mentioned it. You did a radio show for a while. You've been a journalist, right? Print, radio, TV, and now you're a financial advisor. What made you want to make the switch?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I mean, I made the switch probably about the same time you did, or when you got in. I might just be a couple years older than you. I was an accidental, right? And what had happened was I was, found myself out of the city in New Haven. My then wife was a Yale professor. And I didn't much like writing from home, which is ironic as we're all kind of got sent home a few years ago with COVID. And so I said, well, I either want to, I want to go do something else. I like people. I always liked writing personal finance. I wrote for a personal finance column when I was a writer in DC. I got to do a lot of freelance. I really admired Rick Adelman. Do you know Rick Adelman?
He does some great stuff. That's for
sure.
Yeah,
I dealt with his firm as a source for stuff. I said, I want to be like him. And he works with the middle market. I work with the middle market. And I just went out and did it. And it was just absolutely fantastic. Fortunately, because I was good with money in the sense of being frugal. That's kind of what being good with money is, not hitting home runs on investments because you're going to win some, lose some there. I was able to make a big transition and leave a career where I was very successful and earned a fair amount of money to one where I earned very little and to start, but it got working pretty well. And believe it or not, I kept writing a little bit as I was going on the side to support the family as I got moving up on this business. But these days it's all financial all the time now.
Well, and you're doing writing and that's communicating, and that's what financial advice is, communicating to people. Here's how you ought to go about certain areas, or at least here's some places you ought to explore. Now, tell me, what type of journalism did you do? Was it, it sounds like some financial, what kind of was your focus there?
So I work for a magazine, monikers, Free Minds, Free Markets, Reason Magazine. And I was hired to be their Washington editor. And this was just pre sort of internet. So I was hired to write, schmooze, and edit in that order. And believe it or not, in a day and age when journalists are popping off every minute, my job was to deliver 9 articles a year. Feature articles, columns, anything. So I was a lot more prolific than that. I would write, I'd write feature stories. I did a big feature story on John McCain before he was popular. Then that actually got picked up in the dictionary, the Encyclopedia of Politics, which was good. Actually, the last piece I covered interest rates at the Federal Reserve. And the point I made was that the Federal Reserve doesn't set interest rates, folks. They set one interest rate. So free market will set interest rates on you. I would do a broad range of stuff. When I ended, I had a real popular column where I covered DC as a spectacle. So it was kind of like, can you believe this expletive? Or the other thing was your money at work. Or, DC is not a swamp, it's a hot tub and it's heated with your dollars, right? And so I would go around and do things and then just report on life in DC, the schmoozing part. And it was a great place to live. It was great fun. I was never very partisan. And if you're not partisan, DC, you don't really have a place there. So it's easy to leave, you know what I'm saying? Because you don't have a team in the team sport. You're always kind of finding yourself on the outside. But, so that was a great time in my life. Ended up having a baby, moving into the suburbs in New Haven. And you know what I said? I'm done with this. Let me go apply these communication skills, these listening skills, these interviewing skills, these open-ended question skills. And I was always energized about freedom and the role financial freedom plays in personal freedom. Financial freedom makes you personally free. And let's bring that to the middle class, right? That we don't need the key. Look, the other people are going to be fine. They can pay millions to save billions. I understand it. I'm not mad at it. I'm all for it, but that's not what I do. What I do is I help people that go to work every day, typically a wide range of incomes, but I help them make smart choices about their money, about insurances, about savings, about educating their kid so they can do the stuff that they want to do without stressing about money.
Yeah, you got it. And speaking of money, you've got a focus on a word related to money called income compared to another word related to money called principal. And of course, we just talked about DC. It's not the principles that the people in DC probably don't have. It's a different word, a different spelling. Tell me what you mean by principal and why are people too focused on that word when they should be focusing on another one?
It's crazy if you think about it, Jeremy. We know this. We live on income, right? It's income that we spend. But yet we define wealth as the assets that we have. And the asset being the principal value. I always get that mixed up. I have to look it up every time when I'm writing. Multiple times in the same article, I'd mix the spellings up. But we focus on this value. So like right now, the stock markets, financial markets are down, newsflash, right? And we were talking earlier, it's with bonds being hit, there's not a lot of places to hide. So we're looking at least 10, 15, 20%. So our principal value is down. Let's say we had $500,000, 20% is 100,000. Bye-bye, right? So we feel poor, and we are. If we were to take all that money, we would be short. But we never take it all, do we? If that same amount of money was still generating the 4%, 4 to 5%, anywhere $20,000 to $25,000 a year in income, our lifestyle is really the same, isn't it? And so it is not the principle typically that matters. Another way of saying it, that if most people out there listening, if they lost all their assets but kept their job, they'd be okay. And if they lost their job and kept all their assets, they might have a little bit of a problem, right? So we live on income, not the principle. And this was hammered home to me at the last sort of big conflagration we had, which was opposite was happening. They cut interest rates in 2008-9. And a woman I call Maria came in my office. And she worked her whole life, and she worked in factories, and she had $500,000 in the bank, and she had a $2,000 a month Social Security, and she had a certain lifestyle, and she was retired. And prior to the Fed cutting interest rates to zero and just pummeling savers, she was making $2,000 a month on her interest, on income on her principal. And by the time she saw me, she was making $2,000 a year. Mm-hmm. She was in misery, right? It was terrible. And so she was living on the income, not the principal, but she didn't want to evade principal. So she was up against it, and it was very, very difficult for her.
Yeah, I like that you bring up that story. I hate that the story happened, but if you think about it, 2008, 2009, the stock market dropped in half, and that was no fun. Yeah. But it did come back up. The market came back up within 5 years. Yeah. And then, but you compare it to safety, right? Your interest rates are completely safe, right? You're FDIC insured and things like that. Think of a money market. I always remember this because I remember at the beginning of 08, it was like January of 08, I was talking to someone and they said they're going to sell their house. And I said, just put in a money market. You could get 4%. That was what the rates were at the time. So 4% on $100,000 is $4,000 per year. Within a year, the money markets went to 0.01. Yep. That's $10 a year, right? So you think, oh my goodness, the stock market could drop in half. Yeah, it did. It dropped in half twice in the last 20 some years, back in 2000, back in 2008. And both times it came back within a few years on top of that. Well, meanwhile, interest rates, these money market interest rates dropped 99.9% within a year. And what is it? 14 years later, they're starting to come back up. It's interesting. And a few things I've pulled out here, I think you're going to like some of these, is that you definitely want to simplify some things. And you're asking people to focus on the income, not the principal, right? What income can you generate? And also, I'm thinking before you do some of this stuff, you should focus on your values, as in what you think your money ought to be doing for you, as opposed to what is the value of your money. So stop thinking about the value of your money and start thinking of what are your values and how can you generate the income to support that.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, there's all these paradoxes we talk about, right? So we live on the principal, we live on the income, but we worry about the principal. Interest rates are the income. It drops 90%. We don't care about it. Our stock drops 20%. We cry, right?
Right. Yeah.
The stock drops. It's just people trying to figure out what companies are worth, the economic environment. I mean, even you take something as complex as what's going on right now, it's all multi-causal with inflation and all this stuff. Just like back then, the financial crisis was multi-causal. So there's no one person that drops the stock, but the interest rates dropping is government policy, folks. The federal government did do that to you. I don't understand why people don't get upset. So why is it that we live on the income? The income is far more influenced by government policy than stock prices. They crushed it, taking away the options for people, and people get upset. So that's another conundrum for me. But what I do know, though, is we need to focus on income. The second thing we like to say is you don't need it all. So what's a withdrawal rate you counsel on your business, Jeremy? 4 to 6%, 3 to 5,
Yeah. I mean, people are always talking about the 4% rule.
Sure. I like 4% guideline. So that means, it's like a baseball game. You don't need everything to work. You don't need all the hitters hitting at once. You just need 2 or 3, 1 or 2 innings, right? So if you're taking 4% at a time, if you have 10% that's doing fine, you got a year and a half. Now, you got a year and a half of income. So you don't have to focus on all of it. You're never taking all of it, especially if it's in retirement plans, because you're going to get crushed in taxes. You're draining it out. So we need a system to manage the drain out. And the final thing I say is you can't lose what you don't have. You never had it anyway. It wasn't real, right? Like, well, you say, well, it was there a minute ago. I just met with somebody who said that. I said, sure, but it will be back in 2 years too. Like if history is a guide, which we can't predict the future. So what we try to do is counsel all this, is give people a system so they know where their money is, what it's doing, what role it's going to play, and they can judge it on the right terms. And more importantly, they can have confidence that they're going to be okay.
Yeah, and you're talking about the system. It's right in your book title. It's a simple system for a big retirement. And who doesn't want a big retirement? And if you make it complex, good luck getting there. And so you've created a simple system. Tell us a little bit, how do you go about, what is this simple system you created?
Okay, so the first thing you got to do is you got to figure out how much money you need a month, right? And I don't know if you find that, but people kind of struggle with that sometimes.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting, people ask that. They've got this big budget, and they say, I did the spreadsheet, and I'm going to spend $6,000 a month. Okay, so is that what you're spending now? Oh, no, it's way more than that. For some reason, they think that the day they retire, they're going to become, a penny pincher when they weren't before, and all of a sudden they'll never have an emergency fund. Like they'll never have a problem. They'll never want to go out to dinner or celebrate anything. Like whatever they come up with, they either have trouble coming up with it, or it's just realistically too low. So tell me how you go about it. People
look at their system. They look at their income as their bills, not as what they spend. We got to look at what you spend,
there you go.
Right?
That's right.
So one of the things that I work on, some people actually are very good, and you get them too. They know it down to a penny. Other people have no clue. But one way we can work on is we work off of what their take-home pay is now, right? Like that's an easy way to do it, because if you got your take-home, we can look 26 times. What do you have? What are you spending now? You can't be living on more than that if you're not taking on debt, right? Mm-hmm. We got to, some things are coming out of the check. You got to add back, like health insurance, because in retirement you're going to be paying, maybe paying Medicare or on the exchange. So that's already coming out. So we got to add that back in. So we kind of rough it out like that. So we figure out what the target is. Once we figure out what target is, we know we need that. Now, I'm not in a low tax state. I practice in the Northeast, although also in the South and the West. So getting down to Florida here is going to be helpful. But we got state taxes to deal with. We got federal taxes to deal with. And when people are working, they got a massive amount of money going to taxes. If they're good savers, their number one bill is their investments, and their number two bill is taxes. If they're not great savers, their number one bill is taxes, because you got FICA, right, state, and federal. And what I see is in retirement, that tax bill just goes way, way, way down because you don't have to generate the income to cover the savings anymore. That gap goes away at one thing. Also, Social Security is taxed a little bit less, lighter, even federally, and may not be taxed in the states that the people are. Actually, again, not tax advice. You got to look at it, but you got to come up with the average tax number, and then you got to say, what do you have? And then you just count it up. So people need three things. The system is three things. They need reliable income. They need income that's coming every month. Because of inflation, people used to look at us with two heads when we talk about inflation, right, Jeremy? Not anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Because inflation, you need that income to increase, because inflation is a slow erosion of value. And our older people understand this because we lived through the 80s. Like I remember the 70s and the 80s, and I know what inflation is. I always say look back to look forward. So we need increasing income, and also we need a safety of principal. Right? We need enough safe. Now that I've dissed it, we need enough safe principal that we don't want to sell right now the thing that's down 30% to pay our utility bill. Right? We want to be getting $1 that's $1. So you need an income reserve. You need to grow that income with investments, and then you want to look at the reliable income component. For most Americans, well, all Americans, because we either have Social Security or we have a government pension. Right? Mm-hmm. Either way, it's got a cost of living on it. So that's reliable income. The second thing could be a corporate pension. They still exist out there. You probably run across them, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, and most of our clients are people that work in the Milwaukee area that have worked for a public company with a pension. And it's amazing. You'd think if you read the news that nobody has pension these days. I was talking to somebody yesterday. She's worked at the same place for 45 years. Number one, she does have a pension, so you want to maximize what's going on there. Number two, she's in the situation exactly that you talked about, where her income's closer to 100 grand, her spending's closer to like 60 grand.
Yeah.
Because her biggest bill is maxing out the 401k.
Yeah.
And her next biggest bill is the FICA and the federal and the state taxes that are in there. So you're right on. You're speaking my language.
That's right, man. You and I were simpatico. So what I will say is, while you're working, income drives your life. When you're retired, expenses drive your life. And that's why it's important to get a nut on your expenses, right? It could be higher in retirement than when you're working. Could be lower. Could be the same. We can't guess. We have to figure it out, right? All those are considered reality. So you figure out what do you have. Now, back to that pension. See, the press always has to have problems. And the personal financial press, the people that are writers that don't have to do disclaimers like we have to do, they actually don't work with people. So they don't really know what goes on, right? We know what goes on because you have a few hundred clients. I got a few hundred clients, wide range, 30,000 a year to 3 million a year in income. Like, we know how it actually works. And what we know is, yes, maybe only 15% of current employees today have a pension, but way more than that have had one at some point in their life and retire with one. All right. Like, it's a massively different number because people go in and out of different jobs. Like, I was just on the phone with somebody who left Disney. So she's a millennial. She just went to Google, but she's got a pension. Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. So if you survey her a month ago, she had a pension. You survey her today, she doesn't have a pension. She would say she's not covered by a current employer. Right. So pension is reliable income. The thing with the corporate pension, and we do spend a lot of time in the book, explaining this stuff, is it's akin to a fixed income annuity, and inflation will chew it up, right? Inflation will chew it up. So we have to know that. And we can also, if there's more reliable income that we want, there's plenty of insurance companies out there that offer fixed annuities or variable annuity riders. So basic annuity products, that job it is to turn lumps of money into reliable income. Now, these can be complex. They got catches. So we're not recommending that here, are we? We're just saying that they exist. And, it's very easy to find people that love and that hate them, and they love different kinds and they like different kinds. So we talk all about that in the book and kind of how to apply it to your life and how to think about it. So that's one bucket. Then the big bucket is, okay, let's say we needed $6,000 a month, using round numbers, and we have $4,000 coming in pensions and annuities. So now I'm going to take off my shoes because I got to count. So if I take if I take 6 minus 4, Jeremy, what do I get? You got to help me out here. I'm
Yeah,
pulling my
2,000 a
calculator.
month
I
you
can't do
need.
it. What?
Yeah, 2,000 a month.
I got 2,000 a month. So now what that tells me is I got 2,000 a month that I need to generate, right? So that's $24,000 a year. So if I'm using a 4% rule, so I'm saying I need how much money do I need, right? What's a pile? How big does it have to be? Size matters, right? But it's relative size. So it's 4% divided by 4%.
600 grand. Yeah.
600 G's.
Yeah.
Now, if I say, well, you know what, I'm a little bit older. Let's say if I'm in my early 60s, late 50s, I'm definitely I would probably advise staying around 4, right? 3 to 4. But I retire people all the time in their 70s. And I might say, well, hey, you got a couple of less years left, don't you? Right? You're a little bit closer to the end. So then let's say you were able to roll that one up. And let's say they want to be more aggressive. Sometimes you don't want to take it. So let's say 6%, you need 400,000, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of got that range. So you in that range, can we make it work? So let's say we got the money, we got the 600. We got the 600,000. So we need 24,000 a year. So if we took 5 years of that, that's 100,000. We could get that over then into a safe bucket, right? Now, what do we mean by safe? Safety is always relative because today government bonds are down. You know, it's funny. We have inflation and treasury inflation protected securities are down. I haven't seen that one written up yet, Jeremy. Maybe you should.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Oh, it's hilarious. And when those things first came out, I looked at them. I never liked because I'm like, they're government bonds. They're going to go with interest rates, right? Like I don't, we should get the, where's Jason Zweig on that one, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and all the people that said that's how you protect yourself safety. Well, I was just looking at one in a client's account and a person's account was down 7.5%. So it didn't work, did it? So anyway, we get that stuff over some kind of government-backed stuff though. Cash, money markets, treasuries, CDs, stuff that's not likely to go down or can't go down. Another great one, and again, we're not making recommendations here. These are just categories, just suggestions, is stable values in company plans can be very valuable here. Would you agree?
It's Jeremy Keil here, and I know you're listening to the Retirement Reveal podcast because you want to learn more about making great retirement decisions. I've created a free video course for you to do just that. Head over to 5stepretirementplan.com and sign up to receive this video training right in your email inbox. We broke down our 5-step retirement plan into bite-sized videos so you can get started on the retirement, investment, and tax planning you need to create a consistent retirement income. Go to 5stepretirementplan.com, use the number or spell it out. You'll get there either way. 5stepretirementplan.com. Thanks for listening, and now for the rest of the show. Oh my goodness! Everything you're saying is exactly we. This was not planned, right? No. We didn't. We weren't plants for each other. But everything you're talking about, where the first thing you got to look at is your take-home pay. We talk about that with everybody, and the stable value plan is likely just a hidden gem in your 401k. A stable value plan is only allowed to be offered instead of a 401k, and so your typical person retiring might meet with an advisor and they say, oh, roll over your 401k to me. Well, you just lost out on the stable value option. They ought to be considering looking into, what are the fees and expenses in your 401k and what do you have available you can't get elsewhere? And that's exactly it. The one thing you cannot get elsewhere inside your 401k is a stable value plan. And some people do it, some people don't.
Yeah. And, I don't know what you do, but, we're going to do a lot. This is where you want a fiduciary advisor, even a best interest advisor, right? I mean, they're converging, in my opinion. I don't want to get into regulations, but what we want to do is do whatever we can what's best for you. And that's what you want. You want the best for you. So you look, sometimes you're restricted on the 401k side. You got tax problems on the way out. Sometimes they withhold 20% tax. It always upsets my clients. Let me use good language. Sorry there, producer. But can we roll in and roll out? Roll in and roll out. So, on staff, we're running 6 employees. We got a pretty good operation. Like we do a lot of legwork on this type of stuff because we want it just like you want. You want all your dollars to work as hard as possible for you, right? All your dollars work as hard as possible for you. And that, so you figure it out. So we got that safe bucket. And then let's say in this example, so we got 4,000 in Social Security and pension. We need another 2,000 a month. We put 100,000 in stuff that's going to be there. We ladder it out. Right now we're laddering kind of CDs out. So 6 months comes in and we're getting interest again, which is nice. So now we got 50 months that you don't have to worry. And then you get your investment as, I would say, ownership based, equity based as you could stand, because that's what wealth is. And that's what ultimately will make the money, is going to be owning the companies that are selling stuff. But again, I'm not making a recommendation here on that, and everybody's different. And look, I know I will work with people that are 100% fixed because that's their personality. And my job is not to, my job is to help them be the best they can be, the best them they can be. It's not to, impose my idiosyncrasies on them, but it's also for me to try to be logical and use the tools of the trade. So that's what we do. And now it works. So like right now, you can imagine markets are down. Look, if your advisor ain't down right now, he might be in jail, made up, you know what I'm saying? Come on, there's nowhere to hide in this one. And it's not terrible yet, but there's nowhere to hide. Everything's down because bonds came down too. So our traditional tools have not held up in the short run. They will hold up in the long run for sure. Can't say for sure, but I'm confident that they will. So we're switching withdrawals. We're switching withdrawals from selling gains in clients' accounts to going to the reserve accounts. And that's fine. That's why we have the system. But we say we plan for this. Clients are retiring every month. Why? Because they can, because we plan for this.
Yeah, I like that you have there, which is a system. When you are working and you've got a job to do, you probably have a certain way you go about doing it. And yet you hit retirement, you've never done it before. You've never had the job of being retired or had the job of taking money out of your investments. And so having a system from somebody that's worked with people who have retired, that have gone through retirement, that's just kind of what you normally do in your working career, is you have a system and you go about doing your job. Well, this is a completely brand new job of being retired and taking money out. And what you need is a system. I love how you broke it down. It's a simple system. It matches so much of the stuff we do. So I like it even better. You got to have a system, and it matches so much of what we do. I like it even better on there. I got to ask you one other question here, because you mentioned kind of how the journalists that are out there need to have a problem to write about. And you read the financial news, and everyone says that America's in a retirement crisis, but in your book, you disagree. So why do you disagree with that?
Because I work with a wide range of people, and I live a very diverse economically diverse life. And, our system is absolutely fantastic. But say Americans don't have access to a retirement plan is to say they don't have access to a bank and an IRA, right? Mm-hmm. We all have access to retirement plans. We have a very, very diverse systems with multiple points of entry, exits, and a lot of flexibility. So the 401k, the defined contribution revolution, is creating middle-class millionaires. And all people have to do is save 10%. All they have to do is read the book, Richard Clausen's Richest Man in Babylon. It's been available forever. I think it's probably $1 on Amazon. And you can read it in 45 minutes. It's thinner than my book. Mine, it takes an hour and a half to read. And you do that, you're set to go, right? So I really like our retirement system. It had people that want security and go work for government. They get government pensions. People that want to be more entrepreneurial, they can go start their own companies. We got SEP IRAs, we got 401ks, we got Roth IRAs. We have the ability. It's quite amazing to think. We think, we're investing in stock. No, you're not. You're buying the economy. Everybody that works for a company now owns the company they work for. That's pretty cool, right? Karl Marx's big complaint was that workers could not own the means of production. So they were forever going to be paid just enough not to starve to death so they could get to work the next day. A little bit wrong, right? Now for $50 a month, you can own every company in America. For another $50, you can own every company globally. And for another $50, you can own all the debt. That, my friend, is liberating. All wealth is owning the companies. And the fantastic thing about doing it that way, notice I said, I'm not making a recommendation. I'm just stating a fact, is it's passive income. That is a true passive income. My father and I, we were running a business. My dad always owned business, and we were finishing up the last one. And I said, just think if we would have taken everything you put in this business and you just put it in the S&P 500, right? You would have had no headaches. Right? The dividends. Altria is never going to call you up and say, hey, what color should we, what are we going to do about the advertising now that the Marlboro Man's gone, right? Nope. They're going to work on your behalf and give it to you. So it's not a perfect system, but it's the best one ever out there, and it creates wealth and prosperity. And yeah, our so-called shrinking middle class, because people are going upper middle class. That's why. So also the other reason I'll say, Jeremy, is what the experts focus on is people with low income and low assets. Now, I'm not going to say that low income and low assets is a problem. I'm not a problem, but people that don't earn a lot, Social Security is so fantastic. It replaces a lot of their income. Second, the Medicare subsidies, they might not pay anything for Medicare, right? And third, income statistics miss a lot of income. This guy, Andrew Biggs, who writes, he's the American Enterprise Institute. He debates the woman from the New School all the time. And he wins the debates, but the press never picks up what he says because they don't like it. And he points this out. When researchers survey retirees and ask about their income, they answer it's a lot lower than when you look at their tax returns. Because when was the last time you answered a survey accurately? Right? If it's a few questions, it's a lot of questions, you start hitting C. Second is privacy. You're not going to tell that person that. Third, people don't think, oh, I just took $20,000 out of my IRA. That's income. They don't look at that as income. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
right
there's,
on.
And the final thing I'll say on that is, there's a great study. I have it cited in some of my writings. It's longitudinal, and it goes and looks at people that retired like 20, 30 years ago, and now they're dying. And very few people run out. Most people die. Almost half of the people die with more money than they started retirement with. Even people that start retirement in America with like $40, $50, $60,000, they tend not to deplete that money. The one thing that'll get us here is a nursing home if we don't have enough.
Yeah, well, people are smart. They realize if inflation changes, if their life situation changes, their spending habits have to change. And I love exactly what you said in there. I'm gonna start using that now, where you said when you're working, it's your income that kind of drives things, and when you're retired, it's your expenses. And people know that. And when you talk about a retirement crisis, you're just kind of assuming that Americans can't make a change, right? And they're smart. They know what to do.
Americans retire extremely well. And if you did international comparisons, you would see this. And people with pensions are on fixed incomes and they have a problem. People with assets are not on fixed incomes. They don't have a problem, right? Like their whole point is to get off of fixed income. But see, the thing is, if you say world's nice, you got to have problems. I got a sign right here. A hero needs a villain, right? Hero needs a villain. It's the villain that's the star, not the hero. And if you say the world's good, it's all going to work out, you're right. 99% of the time you're right, but you're not going to get booked on the news for that. You're going to get booked on the news to say it's all going down. I mean, remember we had a population crisis. Now we have too few people. We had global cooling before it was global warming. We were at peak energy in the 80s, and then we had too much energy. It's always a problem. Take unemployment. It's always a problem. If unemployment's high, it's a problem. People are out of work. But if it's low, it's a problem because now companies can't get people. Oil's always a problem. If it's high price, it's a problem at the pump. If it's low price, then the oil producers aren't making any money. It's always reported as a problem, regardless of what's out there. And the reality, yes, it's a problem, but it's also a solution, right? It is a problem, but it's also a solution. High oil prices, people conserve. Alternative energy becomes, we bring more supplies on, right? Like low unemployment, companies figure out how to use technology. They get more effective. We all get wealthier, right? High, recessions, prices go down, money goes farther, we regenerate capital. So it's the good is never reported. It's always the bad. And sometimes it's just quite dishonest. I mean, I'm looking at a column here. I'm not going to say the journalist, but it's for the premier financial publication in this country and by the premier personal finance. And he's writing about, how to stand up to a bear market in retirement. And, I feel bad for this guy because, I'm a writer too. There's nothing new under the sun in personal finance. So he's got to come up with stuff all the time. But what he says is he picked a period. And I got a graph here. I can show it to you. But he says from 1966 to 1982, the cost of living went up and the S&P didn't do any returns. No returns. And I thought, that's a strange time because I don't know about you, Jeremy, but I look at this all the time and I've never had that period cited before, right? We go 73, 74, we know 87 crack, right? There's a whole bunch of, but it was never this one. So I look carefully at this and I see an asterisk. S&P 500, the asterisk, dividends not included.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Now, well, you can't invest in S&P without dividends, right? This is
luck.
just a lie. So then I go to this tool that we have, and you have it too. It's called Morningstar. And the nice thing about investments is that it's like baseball. You can argue about who the best pitcher is, who the best hitter is. But what you can't argue about is what the batting averages and the ERAs are, because everybody verified and looked at it. Same thing with market prices. So the good news is we've had markets for a long time, and you can't invest in that. But you could invest in various investments that I'm not going to say the names. But these are big company funds that some have stocks, some have bonds. And they go look to the S&P, and they've been around forever. So I could put it in this little Morningstar tool, right? And I could see what it was. And long story short, one where you would definitely know it, over that period that this column said people got zero returns in this investment, which is nothing special. It was 8.25% compounded, 10,000 turned to 37. Just a lie. So how is it that the premier financial publication, premier personal lies, and the editors don't even catch that, right? In what world does this even happen? But that's what people are getting scared. So our clients read that, the more sophisticated ones, oh, we're not going to get any returns. Well, that's not what happened. That is just not what happened, right?
Yeah, and even if it had happened, right, when you have that consistent income, that increasing income from places like Social Security, when you've made a plan for what happens when the market does go down by having some set aside money, and have a plan, because what if you're completely wrong and the market goes up? Well, then you ought to have some money in the market there to participate in that. That's what you need, is a system, and it's that's why I love about your book, is that it's got a system. What I'm going to tell you here for everyone listening, first three people, go to retirement-revealed.com. There's a place you can contact me there. Just send me a note that you want Michael's book, and I'll mail it straight out to you. So first three people that go to retirement-revealed.com and ask for Michael's book, I will personally pay for it, send it out to you. But for everyone else, Michael, how do people get a hold of you? How do they get a hold of your book?
All right. So I got a platform on this stuff. It's called simpleandbig.com. Simpleandbig.com. And if you go there, what you're not only can look at the writings and see the pretty face. I got a pretty face. I'm teasing. I don't. I created a class on this term. You should go check it out. I turned my book into an online course, and offering it to you for complimentary, free. Like, we're not charging. Okay. So you can go sign up for that. And if you don't like to read, you can watch. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty darn close. And I know that different people like information different ways. Also, the book's an hour and a half read. It's 18,000 words. Like, it's my first book was, 40,000 words. It was more comprehensive. These ones are designed to get the information to you. It's got pictures. It's got stories. So you'll be able to probably see yourself in one of these examples and start to put those pieces together. Okay.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. Well, everyone go to simpleandbig.com if you want to learn more about Michael. Go to retirement-revealed.com. Put me a note in there, and first three people, I will send you the book personally. But hey, go to his website. You can download the first chapter. You can buy the book there. He's got the courses. Thanks for coming on, Michael, sharing your system. It's right on. It's simple. And that's what you need, is something you can follow, and something that has gone through, I suppose, the test of time by just looking at history. And you've helped hundreds of people, just like we have, to hit retirement and do it well.
Yeah, no, Jeremy, great. I got to tell you, it's a real honor to be on here with you. And, getting back to what we said, like, it's practitioners like you know where the rubber hits the road. We know that we got to keep it simple, and then we got to apply those facts you got to apply it to the circumstances and the personalities. And that's why people like you are successful. You've been doing this for years, and you're helping the people out. So it's really great to be on your program.
Yeah, I love it. It inspired me to, at some point, I'll write the book. You've written the book, I think, so far, but I'll
let
write
me tell you how to do it,
we'll
okay? This my next book is coming out. It's going to be a simple system, and it's getting going. Don't blow your 20s and 30s so you can be in your 50s. And, this is why I think our retirement system is so great. Like, this is just a great country. I mean, see, academics always hate us because it's not a simple one-size-all-fits system that people can manage and boss people around in. It's just so much freedom, right?
Right.
And
you have the choices.
That freedom is just fantastic. But do this. I booked 11 nights in over Thanksgiving in a resort, and I went there and I said, I'm going to write my next book there 4 hours a day, 44 hours. because it's all in your head. You had it,
Right,
right?
yeah.
So you make a presentation, you give the presentation, you figure the stories, and sure enough, I drafted out my next book over 11 days. And now I'm going back to I'm going back to the DR in September. I'm going to finish it there. That's how you do it. Go do a writer's retreat.
That's right. Well, you gave me a simple system for the writer's retreat. So thank you, Michael.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming on the show.
Go
awesome.
do it. Go do it.
I like it.
You got to get it
like
done. It'll be fun.
Good. Well, thank you for listening to the Retirement Revealed podcast. We believe if you know more about your money, you will feel better about your money and you will make better money decisions.
Thank you for listening to the Retirement Revealed podcast. Click on the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit retirement-revealed.com to learn more. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Keil Financial Partners. Keil Financial Partners does not provide legal, accounting, or tax advice. Consult your attorney or tax professional. Representatives have general knowledge of the Social Security tenets. For complete details on your situation, contact the Social Security Administration. Keil Financial Partners is a part of the Thrivent Advisor Network, a registered investment advisor. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.